CSR from top to bottom is not going to succeed. And many have done it, and they're doing better. Next. Sorry, back, I'm sorry. Number 2, your business strategy. Have you evolved a strategy which incorporates CSR into your business plan? Not in isolation. Oh, CSR, do something with afterthought. Is CSR post-operation or pre-operation? 31st March is over, yes. Calculate, yes. 2 months, take it out and spend. Or before the year begins, you think of your responsibility to society. So pre-operation, post-operation, which one you are doing? Then your culture. We don't know. In one event, I was talking to the general managers of a company, and I asked them a question, do you know about CSR activities of a company? Answer was, the GMs of a company are telling, we don't know what they are doing. They means what? The CSR cell. We don't know anything about it. So therefore, it is a very truncated activity happening just to spend the money. So culture, the entire organization must be sensitized. Then employee volunteerism. Now it's a world over companies are involving employees. Those who want to do voluntary work. The policy, can you evolve a policy where you capture the voluntary spirit of companies in the domain of individual participation and help them to participate? That's great companies are doing it, employee volunteerism. And allocation of funds in time, dedicated wing of CSR, doing in a project mode. Right from beginning, what is the target and why you want to do it and what is the objective, and implement in a project mode with a fixed timeline, fixed cost and fixed ending and impact, and then monitor the outcome. Otherwise you are not going to do much impact. Your assessment, your rating will be very high. Audit, evaluation. Lastly, please report and communicate. Inside also and outside also. Friends, all these 10 elements are necessary for effective strategy of CSR for the companies. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences, some statistics and your case studies, which we truly liked and understood quite well. Just to say that because our guests have their own, they have plans and travel plans around, so we shall not be breaking for a break, but we would continue with the next session. And I'll take this opportunity to introduce Shri Deepak Kumar Hota, who is Director HR, BEML Limited. I shall take this opportunity to introduce him to you in detail. Shri Deepak Kumar Hota has assumed the charge of Director HR and member of the board of BEML Limited, a public sector company under the Ministry of Defence in 2013. Shri Hota is a graduate in economics from the Stephen College and post-graduation in HR from XLRI. He has over 3 decades of experience, professional experience in HR and business, and has served in various capacities in Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, including CEO of HPCL Biofuels. Prior to joining BEML, he was heading the natural gas division of HPCL Mumbai. We welcome you to IPE, sir, and I would request Dr. Sulagna to welcome sir with a bouquet. I would now invite sir to help us around with his lecture on strategizing CSR for sustainable business.
It's very important, for sustainable organizations to have things going as per plan. I think that's very, very important. After hearing, my guru, Dr. Rath, he is a guru of sorts. There's very little, meri bolti band ho gayi. He has, of course, been with academia. He has been with the government. He has extensive experience. So I shall not dwell into that. But just to kickstart the entire, couple of points that Rath Saab made, sir, if you will permit. It's important to have exclusive CSR people. And that's what the private sector is doing. I am very critically aware, because I have been a PSU guy for the last 33 years. and I have been with two companies. I believe, and it's a very personal and firm belief, that public sectors, notwithstanding the report that has been put, I'm not saying the report has not been, a proper one, fair one, but I would submit humbly to say the public sectors are actually doing much more. Perhaps they don't know how to measure it. And it is this, how do you measure it? How do you dress up? Is so important. And perhaps the point that Rath Sahab made was, they are very professional CSR people, whereas we don't. Now, do we need professional CSR people? That's something that all of you may like to add to the debate. But my personal belief is that the voluntarism that Saab said, people are also doing the work. After all, you have a triple planet, people, planet, profits. We all need profits, we all need oxygen to stay alive, we all need profits to stay alive. But we also make losses sometimes because there are ups and downs in the marketplace. But PSUs have a committed CSR spend, which really cannot be taken away. I will not name the director HR of one of the largest companies who have a CSR spend of 700 crores. He says it's a nightmare because every day he gets a call from the powers that be. And he is literally said, oh, you don't know? आपको पता नहीं है कौन मैं बोल रहा हूँ? मेरा ये constituency है, यहाँ पे आपको ये लगाना है. Now, if I have 700 crores to spend, I would rather, for example, my company is headquartered in Bangalore, where, there's a lot of news about the old lake beds, which is housing, a lot of construction, mushrooming. The lakes are, they plan in such a way that it dries up. Now, it is something that the three companies, the big companies in Bangalore, BEML, HAL, BEL, we would like to really focus on replenishing that. Now, for that, you can't do with 3 crores, 5 crores, 10 crores. You need big amount of money. How do you really collaborate and do it? Then it makes a big impact. Having said that, yes, between the three DPSUs that are based in Bangalore, there's a fair amount of CSR that we do. For example, one of our biggest factories that we have in KGF, which over about 2,000-3,000 acres of land, and we have about roughly 8,000-9,000 people in one place. This is where we make our biggest earth moving equipments. So there we run our own schools, our own colleges, we have our own hospitals, where almost about 60% of the people who avail of the education and the medical facilities, they are not BEML employees. So that we believe, there were times when we made a loss, few years back we made a loss, but I cannot stop the spending, sir. Even if I make a loss, I cannot stop the spending. It is a commitment to the society, and as some of you would have read, there's a wonderful book by a gentleman called Chris Argyris. He, along with Peter Senge, they propagated this entire aspect of people, planet, and profit. It has been perhaps, understood in different ways by different companies in different countries. But if you look at how organizations really live for a long time, his book titled The Living Organization, he speaks of various companies, which are perhaps Japanese, some European companies. They have outgrown the average age of other Fortune 500 companies. The study at that point in time suggests that almost a third of the Fortune 500 companies disappear. And why is it so? It is because, in a way, they have not been in sync in the surrounding in which they are operating. So if I have a plant in Kolar and I don't take care of the people's aspirations there, like we have adopted a village there, there's a little village where about 150 families are there. If I don't take care of the aspirations and I say I have made 500 crores net profit, that gentleman doesn't understand what is 500 crores. So the social conscience, it is very fashionable to have, vision, mission statements, and the word in your vision, mission statement will be, you are a socially responsible corporate citizen. But whether you live it, Now, if I say I'm committed to reducing my carbon footprint, now today I came from Bangalore. I drove almost about 40 kilometers to the airport. Here again another 50 kilometers, and again 200 kilometers on the way back. Now, what is my carbon footprint? All these companies which, sir, have great CSR window dressing, what is the sourcing policy of these companies? They will take a tire from Taiwan, they will take an engine from Thailand, they will assemble it in South America, and look at, because end of the day the CSR, the planet, the climate change, if you really look at it, the whole thing is very interconnected. So how responsible are we for our future generation? So I think all of us, if you really deeply care for the future, the posterity, carbon footprint, we would really in our own ways do little things which may be very little, which may be very small, but it really speaks. There has to be a consonance of action and words. I cannot say I do CSR and I get the best prize. You know, you have a very strange situation. Sometimes you find some people get the best. I mean, we know there was a company based out of Hyderabad which perhaps had won the CSR awards. And we all know what happened to that company. Through the, they got the best prize for corporate governance, etc., etc. Sir, I would like to assure you, in a PSU, it will be very difficult for something like that to happen. But yes, we must learn how to tell the world what we are doing. We must learn to synergize and leverage so that if there is a kind of a resonance of what we are trying to do. It should not be at cross purposes. It should not be because, there is a social function where there is a power that comes and I do a, ribbon cutting and I unveil a book. That is not CSR. So yes, there's a lot of introspection we have to do. Now, talking of top management, yes, it is the top guy who makes a difference to how the company looks at not only CSR, its entire HR policy. Like, I've been a HR head, but I cannot say I've been the HR head of a company, because the HR head, to my mind, of a company is the CEO. He decides how I can approach my people, especially with respect to, giving them the benefits. You have the same DPE guidelines, but you have some who go overboard the other way, some are very conservative this way. So it is the CEO who sets. How does the empathy of the CEO come? There could be certain amount of, what would I say, hypothesis, which is yet to be tested. It's my intuitive feeling that if the CEO has been a homegrown CEO of sorts, he has worked in those companies, he would have a little more sort of, I'm not saying somebody outside, like I'm outsider here in BEML. I've been here on the board for the last 3 years. I hope to be there for another 5 years. So I'm not saying that. There are exceptions. I would like to believe I'm an exception. But it is very important, the place where you have worked, you will automatically have that kind of a connect to say that, yes, this is what I need to do. Measuring the impact of CSR, the return on investment, is a very fuzzy subject. It's an extremely fuzzy subject. How do you really measure it? It's something that all of your experts, if I need to get the eyeballs of my minister, so be it. If I need to make a difference in the place where I have worked without looking for laurels, so be it. There are different measures, and there's not any one. This entire concept of triple P, people, planet, profit, was coined by some gentleman in 1974, I guess. John Kilkington, yes. Sir, I'm just John Elkington, yes, 1994. Not that before that the cost-benefit analysis, the social cost-benefit analysis, I was sitting here, the gentleman next to me suddenly reminded me that I was an economist. I was suddenly, taken aback. I said, what is this? I've just done economics from a college in Delhi. I'm not an economist. But I remember at that point in time, 78, 79, 80, when I was in St. Stephen's, there used to be a social cost-benefit analysis. We have done that in economics. What is that? Essentially, it's the same thing. what Mr. Elkington is trying to say. How do you balance between the three P's? No moment any one P is lopsided. It's like a tripod. You need all the three for it to stand. If any one goes, you fall. The sooner we realize it, the better it is. But we have our quarterly results. We have our shareholder aspirations. How do you balance the shareholder aspirations with the stakeholder interests? Now, stakeholders, the reaction of stakeholders these days, for whatever reasons, comes in various forms. And suddenly it can hijack your entire company. When it especially comes to, starting a company somewhere and you try and procure, the land is taken and, you have the locals, you have to give them jobs and you have to, but end of the day, if your sincerity is there, I mean, in my previous company, I remember a lot of LPG plants we used to set up and even big terminals. If your sincerity or purpose is there and you are not sort of violating the Lakshman Rekha, those guys will also understand. Of course, there'll be a few guys here and there who will sort of, tear you apart. So that is the entire aspect of the societal cost benefit analysis. So what we need to do is we need to do a full cost accounting. But who will really be responsible for the entire CSR? Is it the shareholder or the stakeholder? This is a debate which is also there. And it is suggested that it is the stakeholders who should, be responsible to ensure the, balance of sorts between the three Ps. You take companies, automobile manufacturing companies. There's a lot of lead, there's a lot of batteries which goes into it, there's a lot of plastic which goes into it, etc., etc. A responsible CSR or a responsible company which really subscribes to the triple P concept, social accounting. And of course, in European Union, it's being made mandatory, not yet in India, because Volkswagen got away with what they did. In India, we don't get to see what they are doing. We buy high-ended cars of Volkswagen, and there's not a single sound of what they are supposed to do to the existing customers. So this brings us to the next aspect of, you can have all these rules and regulations. How do you really implement it? How do you create a societal pressure on the companies to behave responsibly? Can I really tell my computer manufacturer here that, look, my computer, laptop, old desktops are all, need to junk it. You please take it and dispose it. He will give it to the kabadi wala. In fact, that is another concern for India. Today we have a lot of e-waste which is being imported, and that is a source of economic revenue for some company. It's a trade. Shipbreaking. You say that you don't want to use plastic waste, but I was just coming from the National Nalsar after that. I saw on the road a lot of plastic lying. This education hub. Can we, voluntarism, can we go on a bicycle instead of a vehicle? Can we swear to ourselves or promise to ourselves that we will not use plastic to the extent possible? Because your lifestyle also has to be maintained. Now, these are little things that make a big difference, and uniquely challenging issues are coming up now with the social media that you have. You need to be very, very careful of what you do. BEMEL as a company, I just want to share with the group here, just take a few minutes. We are a 50-year-old company. We are into 3 verticals. We make a lot of earth moving equipments, the big ones. We make trucks where the wheel size is the size up to the roof, 200-ton trucks. Almost 50-60% of these equipments are sold to the coal companies. And the coal companies, as you know, have a mandate to move from 500 million ton to 1 billion ton coal. So that's a big challenge, 100% jump over the next 3-4 years. So that is where we feel that there's a lot of opportunity for us to move into the higher end equipments. So we are into that. That is one. The second is we make a lot of rail coaches. We were the first company in the country to make rail coaches. The typical railways, we would have all gone in those coaches. But we also make metro coaches. 60% of all the metro coaches which run in Delhi are made by us. And I would say with a sense of pride that because we have been in the marketplace where the average price of a coach, metro coach, would perhaps hover around 12 to 13, 14 crores, we have been able to stabilize it below 10. If we are not there, we find like in recently one of the bids, it went up to 12 crores because we were not eligible. Now, is it a sustainable policy of the government? I'm talking about sustainability, sir. Every time you get a technology, by the time I master it, now this is, obviously a business strategy of the multinationals. You come out with a kind of a rail coach design. By the time I master it, they'll go to the next 3-phase, 67%. It should draw the power from the catenary, or it should draw the power from the rail, third rail, the braking speed, the speed bit, the driverless. Now we are making driverless trains. And we are also a country of jugaad, whatever it is. If somebody does some fixing somewhere, and the train, the speed of the gap between the train is about 60 seconds, the driverless, and God forbid if something happens. Somebody jumps and commits suicide, the next one, of course, there are a lot of backups. So the point I'm trying to make is, there is a vested interest to see that the technology changes. So metro coaches is one that we do. The third is defense. Defense, we make a lot of defense equipment, and some years back, I think there was a lot of controversy on a truck called the Tata truck, which we used to import and make. Now also we import, and we also have managed to indigenize it, sir. So that is a mainstay for BEML, which is a 50-year-old company. Now we have factories in KGF, as I said, which is the biggest. We have a factory in Palghat, we have a factory in Bangalore, and one in Mysore, 4. Strangely enough, we are only south-based. So the first thing that one would like to do is to take BEML to become a pan-India, because most of our equipments are consumed, if I may use the word, in north and east, where the mining is, where the defense equipments are. So that is something that the company would like to look at. We have adopted villages around our factories, and that is something that we do. As I said, we have schools, colleges, hospitals, etc., that we do. And